Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode under the Entrepreneurship Series. Today, we're going to be talking about the ABC of starting a business. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're safe. Hope um, you have been able to follow through our previous episodes and have been able to get more quiet time, get into your ideation zone, um, and begin to curate, begin to create, begin to innovate, and let that process flow flawlessly. So thank you once again for joining. Happy to have you here. If you're watching a recording, happy to have you here and hope that what we're going to be talking about today is going to be beneficial to you. All right. So in the previous module, we talked about ideation and how you can consciously transform your imagination into reality. So, in today's episode, we will talk about launching that idea. And the most important question that I'd like for you to think about is how can I start a business? All right. And really there is no given code that has been that that you'd say that, oh, maybe I am planning to start my business this way, or I started my business this way. This is definitely not the right way, you know um, because again, we have different stories and we have different motivations going into the thought of starting a business. But the most I'd like to draw your attention to um, an interesting thing that we're going to be looking at today. Today, we're going to specifically zone in on the ABC of starting a business, right? 26 letters of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now look at that alphabet. How can you start a business, right? Right? So, really, the interesting thing when I look at the alphabet is the the power of creativity that I see really when looking at the alphabet. Straightforward from A to Z, but you have got the potential, you've got the opportunity to come up with any word that you'd like to come up. There are no limitations as to say, in whatever language that you're writing in, to say that you can't write a letter that starts with B. You can't write a letter that starts with. You can't write a word that starts with C. Right? There's something that can definitely come out. Right? But how does this relate to entrepreneurship? How does this relate to starting a business? Right? This is what I'm trying to get to. Right? So the ABC, your ABC of starting a business, and my ABC of starting a business may be different, right? What works for you and what works for me, right, may be different, right? But then there are certain things, certain traits, certain behaviors that are key to launching an idea, to launching a business, which is why today we're talking about the ABC of starting a business, right? Right. So, here's something that I would also like to draw your attention to, right? We're not going to label what the A is or what the B is or what the C is of starting a business, right? But what we are going to focus on, and what I'd like for you to think about throughout this session, is what are the behaviors and actions needed that I need to start this business, right? Um, what are the behaviors, what are the ways of thinking that I need to bring to launch this idea, to launch this business, right? And I'm going to share um, an approach that you can use to get to this, to get to answer this question, right? Here is my ABC of starting a business. Here's what comes to mind when I think of in launching an idea or launching a business, right? So, how do you'd remember that in the previous sessions, um, we talked about ideation, right? And we talked about the different, we talked about business ideas and how you can find your own business idea. So you're probably like, now I've attained the mindset that I need. Now I know how to attune to my creative self, to attune into my innovation, my zone of innovation, right? And now I've also identified the potential business idea. And maybe this time it's not necessarily a concrete business idea, but it's something that is just coming to your mind, a thought, right? A thought of curiosity, something, a curious idea, or let's say a curiosity that is just coming to your mind, and you would like to pursue it, right? And this is now the stage that you're at. But then you're like, now I would like to start that business. So how do I get to that stage, right? So here are the three things that we're going to focus on, that we're going to talk about, right? In relation to starting a business, right? The first thing that we're going to look at is acting on your curiosity, the importance of acting on your curiosity to launching an idea. Secondly, here is the question: what is your story? Thirdly, what am I exactly doing to realize this idea? Right? So, in the very first few minutes of this episode, we established something that is interesting, the fact that um, we've got so many businesses in the world, and um, most of these businesses started differently, right? And some of them were revolutionary ideas. Some of them were not even, were not revolutionary ideas, but they were successful in delivering on the value that they had committed to, delivering on their promise, right? Um, Making them a successful entity, right? So this is something that we've established. um, the way that you might start a business might differ from start. The way your friend might start, may be different from the way you're going to start, right? But there is something really there is some element of commonality when it comes to starting something, when it comes to starting implementing an idea, bringing an idea to life. And this is the ABC part of it, right? So the first thing that you need, right, from based on my own experiences and the conclusions that I've come to is that you need these three things, and these three things are not just the end of it. They're not the tick box, right? Because there is so much more to it when you start to flow and you start to follow through your creativity, right? So the first thing, you need to act on your curiosity. This is my A. And my B is, what is your story? And my C is, what am I exactly doing to realize this idea? So these are the questions, that you need to think about if you're starting this business, if you're launching this business. Because many a times when we hear that, when we go on the internet or we look at so many sources, we have so many people, different people talking about ways they started their businesses, or they're even offering solutions to, their propositions, to, sharing their own opinions. They're like, in order to start a business, you need to do A, you need to do market, you do A, B, C, D, E, right? And that's great, right? But then one thing that I would um, love to acknowledge, in this episode, in this video, and under this series, is that um, when when we think of how we're going to do it, right, and we limit ourselves to sometimes to the information that is in front of us, or um, the information that is in front of us, or established ideas. Sometimes we miss out on the lessons, we miss out on the insights that we stand the opportunity of drawing on, as we follow through these different experiences of ideation, innovation, and iteration. And this is how I've come up with um, these three important elements that put you at the center, that put your creativity at the center, helping you to think, and to give you the freedom, of exploring your thoughts, right? And realizing that business coming to life. So we're going to be segueing away so much. We're going to be coming back to this triangle, to this model throughout the episode. I hope that you're enjoying so far, and that it has been beneficial to you so far, right? First thing that I'd like to talk about is acting on curiosity. Why is it important to talk about curiosity? Why is it important to act on curiosity? Why are we talking about curiosity when we are talking about starting a business? So sometimes when we get to the idea, now you've realized this idea, and you've literally come to this aha moment. You're like, oh wow, this is great news, this is a breakthrough. Now I've identified that, this is definitely a business opportunity, and this is something that, I would like to start. you know and sometimes we take too long, because these ideas are literally stuck in our head, and we're looking for a way to start, right? And we are asking ourselves how to start, right? How am I going to start this business, right? And so sometimes when we ask ourselves this question, how am I going to start this business, sometimes we feel afraid, we feel this fear, we sort of like feel intimidated, right? And in that moment, we feel like maybe our idea is not going to work out. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it's, in colloquial terms, what people would call, in colloquial terms, um, a nonsensical idea, something that doesn't make sense, something that is not worth it, something that is not of value. Maybe, again, in colloquial terms, what some would call a stupid idea, right? These are some of the questions that might come as you're asking yourself, now I have got this business idea, I've written it down, and I'm thinking about it, but how am I going to start? So the important thing is really realizing how important this question is. Asking yourself this question is important on its own, right? And oftentimes it's an indicator that you are on the right path. Okay. So we're going to talk about the importance of acting on your curiosity as you navigate this question. So many a times, some businesses take too long, right? Because people have got the ideas, right? But then how, getting to the point of implementing that ideas, and then sometimes some ideas end up even dying. Some business ideas even end up dying without materializing into the entities and materializing into the opportunities, materializing into the value that they are supposed to bring, right? So, how do you navigate this question? How do you tackle it? How am I going to start this business? So, the ABC, the ABC of starting a business really is, this episode, right, is about, positioning you and helping you, equipping you with the attitude, which you need um, to which you need as you navigate how you're going to start a business, right? And then here's another thing: when we access the vast information of sources of information that are there, we get so many perspectives, A, B, C, and D. And then when you try to follow those steps, right, the steps that have been established by someone else, which is great because we always need to learn from experience, and all of those things. But when we try to follow through those defined steps, right, and then sometimes it fails to work out, we start to be hard on ourselves, and we feel that we have probably we've probably failed, right, because we followed these steps and it did not work out, right? So again, what is important, I would say, when it comes to starting a business is finding your own way of starting that business, finding your own way of launching that product, launching that service, launching that idea that is in your thoughts, that is in your head, right? Finding your own way. So this is what um, you know the ABC of starting a business is all about. So let's talk a bit about curiosity. Why is curiosity important when it comes to starting a business, when it comes to starting an entity? Well, if you focus on the excitement, joy, and the realization of your different values on a personal level as an entrepreneur, it's like easy to sustain it. It's easy to to sustain the business, and grow it, all while generating profit, right? So if it's boring, this business idea doesn't even stimulate you, or this business that you'd like to start, or this venture that you'd like to start doesn't stimulate you, doesn't stimulate your excitement, doesn't get you excited, um, you might want to reconsider, you know, that red flag. That's probably a red flag that you might want to consider, because it's backed by the wrong reasons. So really, understanding your why is something that can help you develop as an entrepreneur and develop your entity, right? So again, when we pursue the profits, when we pursue those kinds of outcomes, we limit our potential, and we limit the growth of our entities, we limit the growth of our businesses, right? Because our why is ill defined, right? So you might find that, follow through the success stories of most successful, businesses right now. They will tell you that it wasn't easy, coming to that point whereby they realized their profits, right? It's not something that happened over time. It's something that happened. Sorry, it's not something that happened overnight, but it's something that happened overnight, right? So again, many businesses die in this infant stage, because it's likely that they were um, the people who started them, started them for the wrong reasons, or maybe they did not have a well-defined why, why they wanted to start this business in the first place, why starting this business was important in the first place. Maybe this business was started as a copycat, as a model that was, for the wrong reasons, like a model that was adapted from someone else. Like, you're like, my friend has now started a car business, and you now aspire to be them. You admire the person that they are becoming, and you're going to start a business because of that, and you're going to start a business because of them, right? And so now I'd like to segue into this curiosity. So does the idea that you would like to pursue get you excited? Does it stimulate your interest, right? And so this is probably an indicator that this business is definitely going to happen because it is started for the right reasons. So here's another idea. I've so many, like, here's another thought. I have so many ideas that I would like to pursue, right? So I'm in my ideation stage and it's not making sense, right? So how is this business going to happen, right? So it's really important to have clarity, as we venture into entrepreneurship and as we venture into starting this business. It's always important to have clarity on what you're trying to do. But then you'd remember that in our previous session, we talked about organization, structure during the creativity process, during the innovation process, during the ideation process, and we established that creativity is messy, right? It's not something that is like smart and clean or a fancy process because we are exploring our curiosities, we're exploring our wonder, right? So it is messy, right? It's very messy, right? So again, so you're probably, you feel stuck because maybe those ideas are not making sense, or those connections are not easily happening in the way that you expect them to, right? So when you have so many ideas, it might be difficult to make the connections, right? Because you know, many times we have a wealth of ideas stuck in our head, and we are worried about how that's going to translate into a business. And chances are, if your business is an original idea, not revolutionary, but an original idea, chances are it's new. And when it's new, you don't have to have an exact or specific model that you are copying word for word, because you are bringing a different strategy, a unique value proposition, a new value proposition, right? So, in all honesty, that can be scary. And so, many times, again, this fear, holds us back from actually starting that business, because one way of actually starting that business is getting started. This is the truth. You know, this is just it. And so this is why you're going to see that on our triangle here. This is why we have the word it, right? So acting on your curiosity, understanding your story, understanding what, asking yourself what you are doing exactly to realize this idea will get you to it, right? So it's not a one size fits all, right? That you say, oh, definitely this triangle is something that's definitely going to get me to my idea, right? So how to start a business? Just start it. So the importance of acting on your curiosity, understanding your story, and understanding what you're going to do exactly is it helps you to get started. Now, so as I act on my curiosity, what should I be thinking about? It's something that we're now coming to. What should I be thinking about as I'm acting on this curiosity, right? As I'm acting on the what ifs that come to my mind? Is it passion or profit? Or outcomes, or realizing the vision as I go? Well, I would say realizing your vision as you go, right? If you pursue profit and you fail to get profit in the first few months or years of your business thriving, right? Then it's probably going to die because you have failed to achieve the goal that you had set out to. But when you use that business idea as an opportunity, again, for as an opportunity to unleash your passion, to unleash your curiosity, right? You are going to realize that it's going to grow and you're going to unleash your potential, and the profit is going to come along the way as a reward for all the hard work that you would have done. Okay. So when it comes to curiosity, the question is always that, you know, what are the things that you find natural, right? Um, and really, what are the ideas that are coming naturally to you, you know, as you are thinking about starting a business? What are the ideas that are coming naturally? So write those ideas down, jot those ideas down, make note of all those ideas down. And as you go along the way, follow your creativity. They're going to make sense. You know, it's all going to make sense with time. This is the essence. This is the power of creativity, right? So, again, right here, as we're talking about curiosity, there's something that I would also love to bring your attention to: purpose, right? What is my purpose? I think this is one of the things that you should also be asking yourself as an entrepreneur, right? Is you have joined this route, you know, as you have joined this entrepreneurship journey, you know, are you in it for the money, or you're in it because of a greater purpose, right? And when you're in it for, again, you know, as I've been saying before, when you're in it for the profits, you know, it's going to be difficult for you because the failure of that business is going to mean the end of your entrepreneurship journey, right? And so it is always important to understand your purpose, to find your purpose. And so one of the interesting things about finding your purpose, I think when we think about finding your purpose, we think so hard. We feel that, you know, there's definitely this distant location whereby I'm going to travel to, I'm going to embark on that journey, and then I'm like at that place, and then I'm like here, and then I'm like, wow, now I found my purpose. But then you find your purpose in the small things that you do every day. And so what's going to make a difference between an idea that's stuck in the head and an idea that was actually implemented is the ability of the person who was thinking about it to act on that curiosity, right? And so, you know, you have so many ideas, you know, you have so many ideas, you know. Let's say you want to start um, a confectionery, you know, business, right? You're like, okay, I want to specialize on cakes, I want to specialize on that, but what if I can expand into that, you know? So these are so many ideas that you have, right? And you have got the enthusiasm and you've got the energy to get started, right? But then to get to that point where you now realize it, one important thing that you need to do is just to act on that curiosity, act in that moment, you know, act in that moment of creativity, act on that idea that comes. So starting a business really is not about saying, oh yes, you know, now I have got this building, I'd like to start my confectionery business here. Now I've got this building, you know, you invite people from your friends, your workmates, people from, you know, different, you know, areas of your life. You invite them and you invite them to witness the official opening of the business, and you have a ceremony. You're like, oh yeah, now we are starting the business, and you go like, you cut that red ribbon, and you feel that, okay, now I've finally started the business. But in all honesty, it's more than that. It's more, starting a business. Is more than cutting cutting the red ribbon, because starting a business is building a business. If we can interpret it this way, building a business. And how do you build a business? Well, you build a business by developing an idea, right? And how do you develop an idea? Right? You develop an idea by acting on those curious thoughts, right? Those what ifs that come to your mind, right? Taking action on them, right? This is how you develop your idea. And so this is like, okay, one of the questions that's probably going to come, like, I've got all that I need. I've thought carefully and deeply about my idea, of how I would like to start a business. But when am I going to start? I want to establish a start date. And you probably did this 5 years, you probably did this 2 years ago. You wrote it down, you diarized it, all of those things, and you even set a start date, right? But then that date came and it passed, and still that business was not realized. It's probably because the approach that you're using, right? So acting on your curiosity, building a business requires a lot of flexibility, right? The willingness of you as an entrepreneur to be open-minded, your willingness to explore really where your idea can take you. You shouldn't be rigid. You need to be very flexible, right? As an entrepreneur, right? And be willing to see your idea manifesting. And so when you stand in the way of your idea as an entrepreneur, you limit the potential of your idea to your mood. You limit the potential of your idea to your own thoughts, to you not unlocking your creativity, not unlocking your potential. You limit it to that. You set limitations. You're like, no, my business cannot go global. It cannot go international. I want it to serve the people of this specific community. Well, why are you limiting yourself? You're probably like, oh, now I don't have the resources. Now I don't have the information. I don't have the expertise, right? Well, expertise, the interesting about expertise, the interesting thing about resources, the interesting thing about information, the interesting thing about knowledge is that these things can be built and they can accumulate over time. So don't worry about not having the expertise at the start, right? Don't worry about that. This is something that you're going to build, that you're going to accumulate as you explore that idea. So when you approach starting a business as an idea that you're exploring, with that curiosity, with that interest of wanting to see where it's going to take you, right? You unlock so many opportunities for yourself, so many opportunities for your business, and quite interestingly, new and untapped revenue streams, right? So this is something that you might want to think about. So at one time, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Jeremiah Su. Jeremiah Su is the founder of Super Minted, a booming company here in Asia that has been like expanding and growing. So we're having this conversation really about how he started and how he was able to grow it, and how he is still able to maintain that room for growth, for his business. And one of the things that he shared in that conversation was that um, when you started, really, um, it wasn't, when he started, he really didn't get the support, from people he expected to get the support from, right? And usually when you don't get support from the people you expect to get, the kind of support that you need, right, from them, from those people, right? um you feel like your idea maybe is not a worthy pursuit because maybe you did not get um the validation from them, and it feels like your idea is a pipe dream, right? um it can be something that can actually lead to the death of this business idea, or maybe this business before it even starts. And so, as he shared, one of the things that he mentioned was that he kept at it, and he invested these 10,000 hours. And this is, you know, you know, he was like, I put in my 10,000 hours, right? And, you know, he never stopped moving forward. He never stopped going, right? And this is, also in his own words, and he was like, when you find something you love, keep at it because you will eventually um, hone that craft. And this was, you know, and even, you also went on to say, what? Every choice that you make is an outcome. And, my advice is never live in regret, because time is short and life is even shorter. Just do what is best for you. Be happy with that decision, because, if you keep on, wallowing in the past, you will never grow and never move forward. And this is the best part. In essence, you do you and don't overthink it. And that was it. And that's something that really stuck to my head, and I kept on thinking about it. And in reflection, this is something that I feel that could also help you as an entrepreneur in your journey as an entrepreneur. That if you are to approach your entrepreneurship as an activity of interest, as an activity that you're exploring, it's really um, you create opportunities, to grow that business, to grow that idea, to develop that idea, and so this is something that I really took it. And this is now how I'm going to segue into the next important question when it comes to starting a business. The next important question that is going to help you actually start that business. How? What is your story? What is your story? In the previous module, we talked about um, the importance of storytelling, right? But not, storytelling, telling that story to other people, but the story that you tell yourself. So, what is the story that you tell yourself on a daily basis? The first thing, when you wake up in the morning, what is the story that you tell yourself, right? So, the story that you tell yourself really has got a lot to do um, with self awareness. It has got a lot to do with you understanding yourself as an entrepreneur. So, why are we talking about self awareness? Why are we talking about the importance of understanding yourself, right? Why are we talking about you understanding your story when we are talking about starting a business? How does this relate to business? So here's how it relates to business, to starting a business. Well, the challenge that comes, during the ideation stage, or maybe as you're actually starting that business, is there's often always this impulse, or maybe this thought, of how you can set yourself apart, how you can differentiate your business, and as you're starting a business, one of the things that you're probably thinking about is, how can I be different from other service providers? How can I be different from other product providers, right? So, differentiation is important, but how do you get to understand, how do you get to define that differentiation as an entrepreneur, right? So, this is where your story comes in. And so, one of the reasons why potential businesses that have got the opportunity, that have got the potential to thrive, die, during their early stages, right? Is that you personally fail to validate that idea, right? Potentially on the basis that of the feeling that you feel that maybe this business is not a worthy pursuit because other people are doing it already, right? Well, let me tell you something. It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be a revolutionary idea, right? But the essence of starting a business where 1,000 people have literally have started a business solving the same problem, meeting the same need, right? Is your how? How are you doing it? How is your approach different? How is the approach of you as a brand, of your brand, different from the existing brands, right? um Maybe you have you have an idea to start a coffee, a coffee shop, and there are probably like 16 coffee shops like in your surrounding area, and you're probably like, what is this? Probably a good idea, to start a coffee shop right here. Who is going to buy my coffee, right? Why would they want to buy my coffee? And then right at that stage, you dismiss that idea, you discredit that idea on the basis that you feel like it's not a worthy pursuit, right? So what defines something that is a worthy pursuit or and something that is not a worthy pursuit, right? Is all depends on you, right? It all depends on how you are, how you are going to differentiate yourself. And so you can't differentiate a brand that you are going to build if you don't know yourself, because you don't know what, the different opinions, the different perspectives, the story that you would like to tell the world, right? So this is, the web that most entrepreneurs potentially get caught up in. They discredit their ideas on the basis that they feel that the business venture that they would like to pursue is a crowded space, and maybe it's not a worthy pursuit, right? So why are we saying that you can still pursue that business idea, you can implement that business idea even though other people have started it? Why are we saying so, right? Well, we are saying so because starting a business, in that industry, in that sector, right? It's all about that much, the value that you are presenting, the value that you're proposing, the value that you would like to bring on the market, the value that you'd like to bring to the market, right? So how are you going to present this value, right? How are you going to make this much needed value available, right? And try as much as you can to make it easily available, right? So at the start of your journey, one of the most important things to think about is your competitive advantage. And I think this is something that most entrepreneurs think about, like, what's going to be my competitive advantage? And so this is the reason why we're talking about it right now, right? We are addressing those potential hurdles that come along the way, that come in the way of you starting a business, right? And so the validation of that idea, right? The most important person when it comes to validating that business idea is you. You need to believe in yourself, trust in yourself, trust in your ideas, believe in your potential, invest in your curiosity, be willing to lose yourself to your process, be willing to lose yourself to your creativity, to your ideation, to your innovation, to your curiosity. And having a strong sense of belief in your worth as a person. So you can't validate your business idea if you don't believe in your own worth as a person. If you don't believe in your own ability to do great things. To believe in your ability to do great things, right? It's not going to be really helpful for you to think about other people or to think about other people's opinions of you, how great they think you are. But this is something that's going to require you to look within, to think about you as a person. And one of the most helpful strategies is silence, right? Quiet time that allows you to be with yourself, that allows you to connect with your inner self, that allows you to make connections, to attune to your inner voice, understand yourself, understand where all your ideas come from. And maybe how you as a person make meaning. This is the most important thing. Not only where ideas come from, because when you open up yourself to experiences, you learn new things, right? So, how you make meaning. Now we move on to the validation. We move on to validation, right? So, if you aren't able to validate your ideas as a person and as an entrepreneur, it's going to be difficult for you to differentiate your brand, to case your brand, to develop a compelling business case, to develop a unique value proposition for your brand. A question that you might want to ask yourself as you're starting this business is, what is my individual perspective on the product or service or the solution that I want to bring, right? This is again where the differentiation comes in. So differentiation and casing are not necessarily about trying to be better than the others or necessarily being a great competitor, but just how you would like to do things differently, right? So when it comes to differentiation, it's not about the major and complex details, fancy graphics, but simply how you're different from the others. And that should be clear to your customers, clearly understandable and easy to tell in your messaging. Again, in my opinion, a lot of businesses fail because um, they fail to differentiate themselves instead, right? Instead, they go out of their way and focus on the things that are unimportant, right? The things that are unimportant. So, as you're starting this business, as you're acting on this curiosity to build a business, to build a business, not just to start something, but to build something, right? So as you're acting on your ideas, as you are acting on your curiosity, right? This is probably one of the things that you're going to think about. How am I differentiating myself, right? And so your differentiation as a brand is going to come in the messaging, right? So when it comes to messaging, a lot of successful business entities profiles, for example, can teach us a lot of things, right? And here we're going to talk about simplicity. Look at Google's logo, or Instagram, or Uber, or Facebook. Straightforward, concise, and simple. We are not going to get into the ins and outs and deeper meanings of those logos, right? But I'd like for us to focus our attention on what we can learn, right? About differentiation and casing, right? What are the things that we can learn? Well, we learn not to think too hard, not to think too fast, not to think too deep, and not to think right? So, one thing we can learn from that is to not think too hard. Instead, we learn to be creative, right? And creativity is not about thinking too hard, right? Creativity is an open space, really, a process that brings you freedom, enlightenment, and excitement. So, starting a business, well, building a business is a process that should bring you freedom, a process that should bring you enlightenment, a process that should bring you excitement, right? And so it's always about honing in, right, honing in on these feelings, right? And using these emotions as an opportunity to think critically, as an opportunity to think beyond, right? As an opportunity to think of all the possibilities in a way without any limitations, right? Transcending all limitations and just thinking really, just allowing your brain to make connections and ask questions, right? And so what's going to make that a success, what's going to enable that business to be realized now, is you acting on those ideas, on those curious thoughts, right? So again, there shouldn't be any room for thinking too hard, right? Because when we think too hard, we end up not being ourselves, or maybe we end up thinking like other people. And so when we start to think like other people, we disrupt that validation, validating our own ideas. And so when we fail to validate our ideas, we fail to act on our curiosity. So listening to yourself and paying attention to yourself, how those little ideas surge in as thoughts of curiosity is important, because this is where you are going to learn how you're going to differentiate your brand and craft your messaging, right? And so let's bring it home. What is the problem that you're trying to solve, right? You would like to meet the customer at the pain point, right? Their pain point. what are they experiencing, and what solution are you presenting, right? And so this is something that is really connected to your story, right? And here's another reason why businesses fail. We talk about people starting businesses maybe for the wrong reasons, or maybe failing to realize the right reasons, or maybe ill defining those reasons because they don't even understand their own story, right? And so what they're pursuing is not the idea, but then it's the money, or maybe the profit that they can gain from that business. So you can only build a business, you can only build a sustainable business, a sustainable enterprise, right? When you are able to connect with your customers. And here's another thing. So when you're ideating, you're developing a concept, you're developing, your idea, the idea feels great, you feel confident about it, right? But then when you take it to the customers, it doesn't, it fails to um, attract the response that you're expecting, right? And so you ask yourself, where did I go wrong? And so many businesses will also die, at this stage, right? Because the motivation, there is lack of clarity on where that motivation is coming from. And so when there is no clarity on where that motivation is coming from, and when there's no motivation, in all honesty, it means there is no vision. Businesses that start with a vision thrive. Look at businesses that are now where, worldwide brands. They all started with a vision, you know. They all started with a vision. And so when we talk with a vision, when we talk about a vision, because now we're talking about entrepreneurship, when you talk about a vision, people are like, it's probably, it probably has got to be a fancy idea. It's something that has got to contribute to world peace, or things like that. But then, sometimes it's simply about the story that you're trying to tell the world. Really, the story that you're trying to tell the world. Whether you are in the entertainment industry, you're trying to tell a story through your music. You know, whether you're a service provider, you know, you're trying to tell the world a story that this approach can work. This way of doing things can definitely work. Right. Now, the third question, right, essential to building this business, realizing it, right? Not just starting it, but then realizing this business is this question. What am I exactly doing to realize this idea? Not to start it, not to start it. I would like for us to maybe for the lack of a better word, to attack this word starting. Because if you're trying, when you're trying to do something differently, you know, um, it's always important to adopt a different mindset, and of course, and most importantly, a mindset that is going to work. And most, quite interestingly, when you're starting something new, um, in this case, when you're starting a business, as I've said, it's something that is going to be scary. Okay, it's something that's going to be scary because you've probably not, you haven't done it before. you know it's something you are literally getting started right now, and so it can be scary. and in some cases intimidating for some, right? And so this is something that can hold us back from starting that business, right? And so really we need to move from a point of saying that, now I'm starting this business on day X, because on day X I would have done this. But really, people who have innovated, right, were able to develop their concepts through trial and error. And in order for you to do that trial and error, you need to have done something, because you can't try if you haven't done it. So in order to start a business, you need to just start, and that's it. Right. And so how do you get to this point? How do you get to this point of starting? Right? How do you transform yourself from that mindset of wanting to start to actually seeing it happen, to actually seeing yourself doing it? Right. So this is the third question that you are now answering. What am I exactly doing to realize this idea? Okay. This is, the question that you need to ask yourself as you are, building this business. What is it that I'm doing exactly? Like, if you can literally like point, I want to start a business in tech. I want to start a business providing services A, B, C, and D. Or maybe I want to start a restaurant. Well, what are the small steps, the small actions that you have taken to start that restaurant? Don't wait for a super event, a super time, that's going to come in some distant future on some exciting day, and you're like, oh wow, now I've got all the resources that I need to start this business. No waiting for that. No waiting for that. Right. So you need to adopt a mindset of building a business as opposed to just starting, right? But this is why our focus for today's episode is the ABC of starting a business. In my opinion, starting a business means you realizing it, you seeing it in front of you, seeing it in your eyes. If this makes sense, seeing it in your eyes. This is how you can start a business. You have got to see it, you have got to realize it. It has got to become a reality. So you need to move from a mindset where you are thinking about how you can start, or when you can start, or what you can start, to a mindset where you literally see it. But then in order to see it, you need to answer, you need to think about these three things: acting on your curiosity, understanding your story, defining the small steps that you are taking to realize this idea. Let's talk about realizing the idea now as you are building this business, realizing it. So, in my opinion, the moments of high, those moments of high tension, not in interpersonal interactions only, yeah, but even internally, the moments of high tension that you have with yourself. Oh, is this going to be a good idea? Am I going to get anything from this? those moments of high tension when you're trying to validate your idea, in my opinion, they offer so many opportunities, right? The moments of self-questioning, you know, you trying to understand, you trying questioning yourself whether what you want to do is going to work out. But these moments of high tension offer so many opportunities, and this almost depends on whether you have the courage to face that situation or negative thought or whatever that is. But one of the myths we should debunk here about facing all of those negative thoughts that are going to come as you are building the business, right? Or as you're building the business, now that you have started, you have gathered the resources, and there's some activity going on, you know, there is some activity going on, and you've started to attract your very first few customers, right? But then now you're back home and you're on your bed and you're thinking, you're tired, and you're thinking, oh my word, is this the right thing to do? Should I continue doing this? Is this going to get me anywhere? This is a moment of high tension, right? This is a moment of high tension, and you're likely going to face it as an entrepreneur, because when you're getting started, you're literally getting started. It means that you might not have all the things related to starting that business figured out, and you unlikely have all the resources, all the human resources, the subject matter experts, the people who are doing the technical work for you. And many a times, in order to cut costs, you are going to do it for yourself. You're going to build that website for yourself. You're going to do the digital marketing for yourself. You're going to develop that corporate identity for yourself. You're going to edit them. You're going to do like so many things for yourself. And you're tired and you feel overwhelmed, and this is the time where these questions are probably going to come, right? And this is my something that I would like to say to you as you're building this business, right? One of the myths that we should debunk about facing these thoughts is that facing these thoughts, right, it doesn't mean denying their existence or repressing them, right? Or trying to be like, trying to act strong, for yourself, in front of yourself, lying to yourself and being like, doesn't matter, I'll continue that way, you know, I'll continue doing all the technical work by myself, that is good energy. But then the thing about energy is that you're using it. The thing about effort is that you're using it, you know and without some form of rejuvenation, that energy and that effort is getting used up. At one point, you might burn out. So what is the most important thing to learn about and think about when these moments of high tension come as you're starting a business, right? Here it is. So it doesn't mean that you need to avoid or deny the existence of these challenges that are coming as you're starting this business, right? Right. So let's redefine what facing it means. So facing it means acknowledging that, you know, this challenge is there as you're starting this business, acknowledging that you don't have the technical expertise, acknowledging that you don't have the resources, and creating new meaning out of it in your own way. It means that you have accepted this reality. You have accepted the reality that you don't have all the resources. Now, when you accept that reality, it means that it's not going to stand in your way, because you are not viewing it as a challenge, but you are viewing it as an opportunity. An opportunity for you to develop a new skill, an opportunity for you to upskill yourself, an opportunity for you to be a better leader, an opportunity for you to develop that business. And here's, how it connects to leadership. In the near future, when you're going to have people now working for you, right? You give them an assignment to do something, to do, a digital marketing assignment. Maybe they don't get it right, or maybe they take too long, or something just happens. It means that it's going to be easier for you to deal with that employee, because you know what digital marketing means, right? So this is just about one way you can build an opportunity out of a challenge that you might face as you're starting a business, right? So, as you're thinking about launching the idea, as I've said, the dots don't have to connect and the details don't have to make sense. Sometimes thinking about it in the simplest way is an effective way of realizing the idea. Remember, here, we are talking about how you can realize the idea, how you can see it, how you can make it manifest, how you can make that idea manifest, right? And we're talking about having a concrete action plan or concrete steps that you're going to take to make that business manifest. Yeah. Right. So it doesn't always mean that you need to have concrete steps like buy chairs, install cables, install this, install machines, hire people, do this. It's not always about the concrete and the big steps, but then sometimes it's about the little things that contribute to the realization of the greater vision, the realization of that idea. So there's absolutely no need to do anything concrete, but look at it as a craft that you are building, bringing all the pieces together to generate new meaning. But then, um, developing this craft, which is starting a business or building this specific craft, a business is different. Because with this craft, with this specific craft, because with starting a business, you might want to think while doing, as you are in the process of ideation, you are ideating, you are creating, you are curating, and you are developing, right? Yeah. The difference with this craft is that you might want to do as you think and to think as you do, because sometimes you are not going to be in other circumstances, you are not going to be able to develop it, right, if you don't know what's working and what's not, because the true testing ground of a business idea is its market. The market will tell you your whether your business idea is something that they need. And this is something that you might always want to think about as an entrepreneur, is you are implementing your idea. And this is something that's going to determine whether your business is going to work or not. Is it relevant? Is it needed? Because if it's not needed, if it's not relevant, then it's not going to be of much value. going back to the drawing board, right? Making changes and moving on. This is how you realize the growth of your business. This is how you realize your business. So we need to move from a mindset of thinking when we can start the business to a mindset of acting on our ideas, on the ideas that come every day when we experience our moments of inspiration. Now, imagine if we could all plan our lives before birth. Like as you are growing, as the fetus is growing, you know, in their mother's womb, right? Imagine if they could literally plan, oh yes, I'll be born on this day. When I'm born, I'll go to school, I'll go to this specific school. After going to this specific school, I'll go to this university, I'll get a job, I'll get married, I'll have kids of my own, I'll do all of those things. Imagine if that was the reality. Well, how would everything turn out? Would we have experienced some experiences that have potentially made us who we are? The joy of realizing the true success of a business, the profitability of a business venture is in losing ourselves to that process of building that idea, developing that concept, and seeing it thrive right in front of us, realizing it. Yeah. So here's also, something that I'm also trying to get at. There is no need to be a perfectionist. Don't be a perfectionist. And here's another thing. You're going to do most of the work alone. So when you're alone in a room and you've started a business, you are solo, yeah, you are just alone. You look around you, you see there's no one. Or maybe you have started this business with a friend, you look around the room and you see it's just the two of you. You know, don't fall into the trap of thinking that there are people who are missing, right? Because you're building something. You're building a business idea. And all that you have around you in that moment is exactly what you need. Whether your business is a business, whether your business idea is going to thrive or not, is something that should be defined by your moments of creativity, not what you are seeing in front of you. You're like, okay, I want to open a factory. And then you go to the factory, the windows are like, huh? There are bugs in the room, it's clean, it's dirty, things are just mumbo jumbo. You go to that room and you feel unmotivated, you feel disappointed, you feel like what good is going to come out of this, right? But then when you come from a perspective of thinking about the vision that you have established in your mind and the idea that you're pursuing, and ultimately the business that you're building by realizing it, when you get to that building, you're going to see more than just a building. You're going to see opportunities. You're going to see offices. You're going to see greater things. Right? Right. So this is something that you need to be prepared for. And okay, here's another one. I'm going to need a copywriter. I'm going to need a professional expert in this area. To get started? No. I would say for anything that you can do yourself, please do it. Because what if you don't find them anytime soon? Are you going to keep on waiting? Are you going to keep on waiting for someone you don't even know is going to come? And then here's another thing in realizing this idea. So be prepared to invest a lot of time into it. Be prepared for that, right? Be prepared to invest a lot of time into it, right? So now we will segue into our concluding reflections for um, this episode. Yeah. So, as you're thinking about realizing your business idea, yeah, think about the needs that you're meeting in the market, yeah, and how you're going to nurture that idea, and that idea grows over time, yeah. Think about the need that you're meeting in that sector, in that industry, or field that you would like to concentrate on. And the most important thing to think about, you don't have to know whether it's going to work or not. In fact, I don't think you should know what's going to work out and what's not. The only way you are going to know is by trying, like just doing it, right? And then finally, um, one thing that I would like to briefly touch on, the business plan, right? So, my advice when it comes to designing a business plan is have a business plan or don't. I'll give you two perspectives. Having a business plan won't determine the success or the failure of a startup. Instead, think of what's going to work for you in terms of giving you a sense of direction as you are pursuing that idea. How do you see your business potentially evolving? Well, that was all from me. Hope you enjoyed this session. Hope this session has been beneficial to you. And right, as we were having this discussion, as we were having this talk tonight, you have been able to start seeing that business, to start realizing that business, and how it's going to get started. Well, it's going to get started in the small actions that you're going to do to build it, right? Whether it's going to be purchasing bricks on one day, whether it's going to be interviewing potential customers on a different day, that's it. You are building a business, right? And the day you're going to cut the ribbon is not the day you're going to start the business, but it's the day you're just going to open it. And that's it. I thank you. Looking forward to connecting with you in the upcoming sessions. In the upcoming sessions, um, we're going to talk about entrepreneurial acumen. What do you need to sustain your entity, your idea, right? How can it potentially evolve and grow, right? So this is what we're going to touch on in our next episode on entrepreneurial acumen. And finally, under this entrepreneurship series, we also have more upcoming episodes focusing on social entrepreneurship, the non-profit side of entrepreneurship, right? This is what we're going to be touching on. We're going to talk about sustainable entrepreneurship. And finally, we can't talk about um, business and leave out the leadership, because this is what's going to be happen. This is how you're going to be relating to your customers, right? So we're going to talk about leadership and team management to set you up for success. I thank you.